Okay, so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at converting a design, an SVG file, into an embroidery file using Inkscape and InkStitch. So let me go ahead and import this. Now, this is a file that I bought off of Etsy. I think I paid $1 for not only for this image, but for several others. And I just thought this would make for a good example of how we can go about taking some SVGs and be able to uh, create an embroidery file with an existing SVG. Now let's go ahead and look at it in normal display mode. If you go into the view menu and choose display mode, you can toggle between this normal and outline. I have a keyboard shortcut of Alt Q that I use to toggle between because we do that quite a bit. So what we're going to do with this design is the red is going to be a fill stitch, and then all of the gold is going to be satin. I'm going to make this to fit a uh, my 5x7 hoop. And so it just so happens when I imported this artwork, if I go back over to inches, I believe it's pretty close. Yes, you can see this current artwork is 6.7, which is pretty much what I would size it to fit my 5x7 hoop. So when you're working with SVG files, oftentimes, depending on how the original SVG file was created, oftentimes you will get what you see here, and that is a series of groups. So I'm going to select almost always when you import SVGs, you're going to have groups. All right, unless it was created in Inkscape to begin with. So what we're going to do is just select your entire design, right click, and choose ungroup. Now if you look here, we still have groups. So just keep right clicking and choose ungroup. And you see we still have groups. So just keep right clicking and choose ungroup. And finally, you will get down to where you don't have groups. Okay, so that's where we want to be, step one. Then we have to figure out, so this is going to be our red background. And I do like to name things. You wouldn't really have to, but it's just a habit I got into. So the red background. And that is going to become a fill stitch. And then, of course, everything else is going to be satin. And what we're looking at here is we have one path currently for chiefs, and we have one path for the dot of our eye. Okay. So what we're going to do here, you notice here on the letter F, it comes down and it's kind of on top of our athletic tail here. We're going to look at a couple of different options here. So my first step then is to fix this issue with my athletic tail. This is all one big path, and I don't need it to be that way. I need it to be in several different paths. So the first thing I'm going to do is start slicing and dicing, okay? So here's what we're going to do. Let's go. I think it's easier to do this in wireframe mode, but you see where our tail connects to our F here? We need to cut it off. So we just double click on our path and select that node and that node. So let's first of all make sure only the nodes that are highlighted that we want highlighted, those two nodes, and we're going to do Shift B. I'm going to turn off my transformation handles because when we're in node editing mode, sometimes that gets a little bit confusing to see those. Now you see here, we can zoom in here. Let's just get rid of that one. We don't need that one. Let's hit Shift B. And then we have a similar issue over here where we have this node that we don't need, and then Shift B. Okay? So everywhere that this is connecting, we need to get rid of. Now this one we don't really need, but this one, Shift B, this one, Shift B. And when I'm hitting Shift B, look what's happening. See how it's splitting there? So now this one did not split because there was a node on top of a node. And that does happen sometimes too. So first of all, we'll delete the duplicate, and then you got this one, and now you can see it is split. And what are we doing over here? Yes, that's split. Yes, that's split. Yes, that's split. And yes, that's split. Okay, so all of those are split away. And then we're going to come over here, and right here where these two are, we're going to split it there too. And we could double check these. You don't have to do this obviously every time, but if you just want to see, and then just hit Control Z to back up. So now this this tail should be, we should be able to remove this tail from the rest of it. Okay, simply breaking the notes does not do the job. It does break the path, but it doesn't split it away. And we need to split it away from the rest of this. Okay, so to actually split it completely away, what we're going to do is with our path selected, we're just going to hit Shift Control K, and that will break it apart. Okay, and if we could also go to path and choose break apart, same option. Now you can see here, now we have many pieces here, and that's probably one of the negatives. When we do break things apart, it really breaks it apart. And sometimes that can be a little bit confusing to keep control over. But we're going to take, you see here, what we got, this piece, it's now been removed. And then over here, we actually have two pieces. You see that piece and this piece, okay? So to convert this to embroidery, we need to put those two pieces together. We do that by hitting Control K. And now that is ready to be put into satin. Now this piece, you can see has an opening here. And in order to make this satin, we're just going to come real tight, right to the point, and Shift B. And now, so we hit Shift B, that should break that apart. And now you can see we do have it broken apart. Okay, so there we go. So now those two pieces we should be able to convert into satin stitches no problem. So if you just want to do that quick and just look at it, just go into params. Control Alt P is our keyboard shortcut, but if you go to extensions, InkStitch, we can get through it that way. But notice the keyboard shortcut. Try to utilize those keyboard shortcuts. And we do have a video in the listing description below that will take you to our keyboard shortcuts. Now, you'll notice that it does not give us any satin stitch options, and that is because all of this is showing fill stitches. So I'm going to turn off my red background layer, and let's get rid of all of our fill stitches. So we're just going to left click right here with our mouse. That got rid of all of our fill stitches, and then we want to come back and bring back our outlines. So let's pick kind of a gold color here. We can just shift click, and then let's give these some thickness. So right now we don't have much thickness. Let's go 0.5 maybe. We really can't see that color, so let's just shift click on red. That we could see better, and let's just make it 1. We'll make that one 1 millimeter. Okay, so now that we've done that, now we can select those two pieces, and now we can go into params. Control Alt P is our keyboard shortcut for params, and now we can convert that into satin. We'll just turn off our running stitch, and that will automatically convert those to satin. Okay, now if you look obviously at the results that we get, it's not very pleasant, and that's because we have not defined any rungs for our satin and or modified our nodes. Okay, so I'm going to show you both options here just for the fun of it. I do not typically use rungs because to me they clutter up the design, but we can control nodes. Now the way the nodes work, the nodes will define our stitch angles. Okay, so we don't need that one. So like right here, I want the node directly across. Imagine a 90-degree line. So if we click here, if we were to draw a line between these two, it's roughly 90 degrees. Control Alt click on the nodes that we don't need. Okay, we don't need this one or this one. So all we did was add 2 there. We have start and end there, and then we're going to add some more here. Again, imagine a 90-degree angle. So now that we have that all specified, if I look at just that one, you will see that that has been converted to satin, and you'll see that the satin that was generated looks like a nice, proper satin all the way through. Excellent. So we'll choose apply and quit. Now, when I finish a piece, I like to just turn it off, so I can't look at it no more. Okay. Now this one we're going to do something different just for the fun of it. First of all, let's double click on it. You're going to see we have all kinds of nodes. So if you don't really want to specify nodes, we can add rungs. And all we're using is our pen tool here. Okay. And we're going to come in here, and instead of manipulating the nodes, we're just going to create a line. Now the only thing to keep in mind here in regards to rungs is that it needs to cross over both sides. That's really the only rule here. So there's one, and let's do one more right here. Okay, so those are our rungs. Now we do need to combine our rungs to our rails, so we select all of that and hit Control K. Okay, or we could come up to Path and Combine, but notice the keyboard shortcut is Control K. And so now when we define params, then you will see that this should convert very nicely. We'll turn off our running stitch. Should convert very nicely automatically to satin. Now, and of course we used our rungs to do that. And yes, I'm very pleased with that. Now, here's where the problem is. One of the issues that we have to look at is our needle points. Let's look at our needle points on this piece of satin. And you'll notice that we have some needle points here, right? You see those needle points there? That is in regards to our short stitch inset. So if I change that to 5, you will see that our needle points will change a little bit. So you see there, now our needle points are back here. Now the other thing that we may want to take a look at is this is a very, very wide satin, okay? And so we've got a bit of an issue there, because this is a wider satin than 12 millimeters even. So if I put a maximum stitch length in this satin of let's just say 12, watch our needle points and see what happens. Notice these extra needle points. That's because we have a maximum stitch length of 12 millimeters. And that's kind of the rule when we're dealing with satin. For something that you're going to wear, you really don't want anything wider than 12 millimeters. Okay? And so basically kind of what the software has done, just so we can understand how InkStitch thinks. The distance from here to here is not 12. What InkStitch will do is it will say the distance from here to here is greater than 12, so we'll put the needle point dead center. Okay, so now our needle point is dead center. So if this was 18, then it put the needle point in the middle at 9. Okay, if that makes any sense to you. So it says anything greater than 12 millimeters, no, we don't want that. And really, because normally I wouldn't even use 12. Normally I like to go no more than 8. And you could see that this satin column over here is wider than 8 millimeters. Now, I don't know by how much. Let's do 10 just to see what happens. So that is greater than 10. So it split it. Okay, and that's kind of surprising to me. What if we did, well, we've already done 12. I guess let's try 11. Okay, so what that's saying is that satin column is basically 11 millimeters, because we're saying 11's okay. So that's probably 11, but 10 wasn't. So that basically tells me that's 11 millimeters. All right. Now, um, let's go back to 8, because if we're gonna have to split the satin anyhow, let's split it, all of it. So we'll go back to 8. And now, normally, what we're gonna see here is you would not want this. When you split a satin, this would generally show up very glaringly. In fact, let's just choose apply and quit here, and let's look at that piece. This is really the only piece in this design that's going to give us a little bit of trouble. But let's look at the kind of the realistic preview, if you will. Now, the realistic preview in InkStitch isn't the greatest realistic preview, but it will kind of give us an idea of what I was talking about. You see that? Right there, right there, right there, all those extra needle points. This is a little exaggerated because it's not quite that bad, but if we were to stitch this out utilizing the parameters that we've given it, it would be somewhat noticeable. It would be somewhat noticeable. So let's go ahead and close that out. And now let's look at another option in params that will help us out here. So what we can do is there's another option here when we're dealing with satin columns, and that is to, so let's see here. So we got our maximum stitch length of 8 millimeters. I do want to look at my needle points. So we have our, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to add some random jitter. Okay, you see that right there? So we're going to add some random jitter. Let's just choose a random phase for split stitches. Let's see what that does. Okay, well, that kind of randomized things for us quite well. Now, the reason that we have all these needle points here, that has to do with our short stitch inset, okay? But all these others is randomized, significantly randomized, to make it look better. Now, so let's go ahead and choose apply and quit. And the only way you can really see that is to go into the realistic preview here. So let's do that. And let's just compare that result to what we had previously. You really need to stitch this out for yourself to see what we're doing here. But you can already see that this, because it's so randomized, this will look way better, way more like a true satin when it's so significantly randomized like that. Okay, you can see these little dimples, but when you actually stitch this out, those really do kind of just blend all in. So you can keep that setting. Let's go back into params and look at one other option there. You're going to have to stitch it out and see like what your eye determines looks good or not. So you see all this randomness, right? So that is the random phase for split stitches. Okay, so you may like that, you may not like that, but let's turn that off. And then look at the other option, which is the random jitter. And let's start with 50%. And you can see that it definitely randomizes our stitches, but not quite to the edge. So if I take that off and then use this one, see how it really randomized it even more. But then we can choose, instead of 50, we can choose 75. And what that does, of course, is it pushes it closer to the edge. Okay, and you can see all those little red dots are needle points. So if I did 100, then you see we're even closer to what we got when we did the random phase, because we have a lot of these stitch points way to the outside. So that's 1,008 stitches. And load if I do 50. 50, oh, that's interesting. That's 1,015 stitches. So anyhow, you have to decide how much random jitter you want to give it. And I usually give it somewhere between 50 and 80, generally speaking. Or you could simply just use this, the randomness. I don't know if you did a combination of both. Now you really got it. You really got it spread out there. So I'm gonna just go ahead and I'll choose this random face for split stitches. Let's do that. That's 1150. So let's just try it. I don't know. I don't know unless we try how that's going to look ultimately. But I have used that feature before, and it does a pretty decent job. All right. So this piece is essentially done. So we'll go ahead and close that out. And now that piece is done. And now we could just kind of take a look at exactly what we're going to do for the rest of this. Okay. So sometimes on script tests like this, I will work backwards. This time I think I'm going to work forwards. So here we are going to kind of like draw an imaginary line, if you will. And we're going to break it there and there. So select those two and Shift B for boy. And now we should be able to select our graphic and Shift Control K. And now you can see we busted that C off by itself. Okay. So let's go ahead and for right now, let's just go ahead and turn, we could turn that off, I guess. Let's turn that, let's unlock it. Oh, I see what we did. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn both of those pieces off. There we go. So we're just gonna look at the C all by itself. Now, as a general rule, now this is just a rule that I've applied for myself. If this distance, the end, is significantly wider than this distance, then this is what I do. So this qualifies. So I grab my pen tool, double clicked on my path, grab my pen tool, and click here and come down to here and just double click, and now we've created a new line. Now if we look here, that's connected and that's connected. So what we need to do is we need to break it right here at the tip, Shift B. And so now you can see it's not connected. Okay, then we're going to come up here and we're going to do Shift B. Okay, so now we can convert this into satin. So let's go ahead and do that. Control Alt P is in params. I grabbed the wrong keyboard shortcut, my bad. I did Shift Alt P instead of Control. All right, so no running stitches. Let's look at satin. And you can see that we do have satin, but we have some very bizarre satin happening. You see that? Very bizarre satin happening. So we'll just choose Apply and Quit. So rather than go in here and worry about our node editing like I typically would do, I'm just going to go ahead, because it's not an overly complicated design, I'm just going to go ahead and come in here and we'll add some lines called the rungs. Even though I tell you never use rungs, but this is maybe the one exception. This line, this really is a simple design, so we could just use rungs. Okay, so there you go. You will get the hang of using rungs or node editing where they need to be as you develop your skills. So we're going to hit Control K because we have to combine our rungs to our satin, go back into params and redefine that for satin. So no running stitches. We do want satin. And if we look at our satin stitches, we get pretty good results. And you notice how that satin starts at the very tip there. Now, I'm not super happy about these. See how these kind of come at a downward angle? I'd like those to be a bit more perpendicular there. So, to do that, let's just add another rung in here. And I don't know, let's see if we can make that just a little bit better. So we will go ahead and Control K, combine all of that. And now we do have to redefine. Anytime we add to it like that, we have to go back in and reset the params because now it lost those params. So we added that at one more extra rung. And yes, I think that looks a little bit better. The difference is slight, but yes, we're gonna go with that. So we'll choose apply and quit, and now we can turn that off. Okay, so now let's go back in, and this piece we can turn back off, because now we're going to deal with our H. So first things first, we need to break our H from our I, so we're going to break it right there. Okay, now down here we need to do the same thing. We need to break it right there, Shift B. Okay, so you can see we are in fact broken there. So, but our H is still connected to the rest of it, so we need to totally disconnect it. So that's Shift Control K, or path and break apart. And now you will see that this is now separate, as is, nope, that's not separate. So let's do Shift Control K on that side, and you'll see that that is now separate as well. So now we're going to take this half and this half and combine them together. So now you can see our H is now whole again. Now, what we need to do is this part of the H needs to be separate from this piece. So to do that, we're just going to click there and hit Shift B, and then draw an imaginary line and hit Shift B there. So this is now broken down here. We see that there, and this is broken here. But they're still together, so remember, Shift Control K, and now this piece is now broken off. This piece is broken off, but we need to combine those two. Control K. So we need to combine those two. Okay. I know it's kind of a lot to learn, but you're going to get there pretty quickly and easily, I think. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this part of our H. And remember our rule, when it's that far of a distance, what are we doing? So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our pen tool and click and drag and just draw a line. Okay, now we're going to double click again. Are we connected here? We're not. Are we connected up here? We are. Perfect. That's what we need. Now we have the same situation and happen in here. So we're going to come down here, click and drag. Okay, and go back to our node tool, and we are not connected there. Sometimes it connects, sometimes it doesn't. So now we're ready to convert to satin, but before we do that, let's add our rails. So we're going to grab our pen tool. So when we have a sharp corner right here, we always want a rung right there at that sharp corner. Okay, I'm going to turn off snapping for a moment. And let's go ahead and add some more rails. We're going to straighten out our stitches right there. We're going to come in here. We're going to turn our stitches, straighten them out right here. And I guess we'll add one more like so. Okay. So there you go. So now we're going to select all of that, and we're going to hit Control K. That's combining our rungs to our rails. Now, normally I would not use rungs, but in this case, it's a simple design, so we're going to use rungs throughout. So let's go back into params here, convert that into satin, and see if we're happy with that. We'll turn off our running stitches. Beautiful satin. Very happy with that. Okay, so you can see that is working quite well for us. Now we have a new situation that's fun to talk about. Let's turn this off because we're done with that. And the new situation is we have this piece down here and we have this piece up here. So let's combine those two, Control K. But now we have this big gaping hole here that we need to deal with. All right. And so we need to create a new segment, which is really easy to do. We have that node selected. We're going to hold our Shift key down and select both nodes. And then we're going to use the Alt-J, create new segment. Okay, now we do need to do the same thing down here. Okay, we have them both selected. Now, there is an option right up here where it says to join selected endnotes with a new segment. So you can click on that icon to do that. Okay, I did it previously, obviously, just by using the Alt-J. Now, do you see how this line is a little bit wiggly, and especially this one is? I would prefer that not to be like that, so I'm just going to delete all those nodes. I can see that line is a little bit wiggly here, but let's just hit Shift L, and that see how that straightened it all out there? So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to get rid of that, and let's just take that line, click on it, and hit Shift L, straighten it out a little bit. Okay, so now you can see it's nice and straight. So we do have to come right to our tip and Shift B, that node. And then we'll come up here and let's use that one. Shift B, okay? And then what are we doing? We're adding our rungs. Okay, so we'll add one there. And then we'll add one there. And I really think that's all we need for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and combine our rungs to our rails, Control K. And then we'll go into params. Take a look here. Get rid of our running stitches and see our glorious satin. And you can see that turns out nice and perfect all the way through. Excellent. Okay, so that one is now complete. We'll turn off the visibility of that one. Our eye here, we have to decide which way we want our satin stitches to go for our letter I. And I think I want them to go horizontally. Okay, so if we want them to go horizontally, then we have to split it vertically. So double click on the I here and select these two nodes and hit Shift B. Okay, we don't have to add rungs to that little piece because it's just a little piece and the nodes happen to be the way they should be anyhow. And so we'll turn off our running stitch and you'll see that we will get perfect satin. No issues there. So apply and quit. Excellent. So then we have the letter I here. So we need to break it from our E. So double click on that path. We already have a node where we need it there. Not sure why there's not a node down here. Let's hit Shift B to break it. So now you see that's busted. And then down here, we're going to break that right there. So on the lower piece, the lower path, Shift Control K. The upper path, Shift Control K. And then we have this piece and this little guy that we need to combine. Control K to combine, right? And then we double click. We're going to add from here to here. We're going to select those and we're going to do the Alt J. That connects those two. And then right here, we're going to do the same thing. Alt J, that connects those two. Now over here, when we use that Alt J, those are connected. So we need to break it right here, Shift B, and now you see that that in fact is broken. Okay, and then up top here, we need to do the same thing. We are going to go Shift B, break it right there. And then just like before, we need to straighten this out a little bit. So let's delete that node. I don't like the crooked line, so select that path and hit Shift L. That straightens that out. Very good. So now all we have to do is go in and add our rungs. So with our pen tool, remember that sharp corner? We need one right there at the sharp corner. We'll need one at this corner. I'll put one somewhere here in the middle. We will straighten out our stitches right there, and that will take us all the way to the top. And just for good measure, we'll add one up top here. Okay? So now we've kind of taken control of that whole situation. So we do need to combine our rungs to our rails, Control K, and then Control Alt P is our keyboard shortcut to go into params and set that to satin. And you will see, because we used rungs and whatnot, we have a nice perfect satin. So that's going to work perfectly. So let's go ahead and turn that one off. So we're getting close, guys. We can turn that one off. Okay. So now, let's go ahead and let's see here. We actually already did an E, did we? No, I guess we didn't. But what we're going to do here, this piece, we do need to break it right there. So Shift B. And then, of course, we do need to go Shift Control K to break it apart from the F. So that piece is now separate. And then we need to come up here and do the same kind of thing. Shift B, right? And we need to break that, Shift Control K. And now you will see that this is now separate. Okay, now we need to take the upper and lower halves and combine those, Control K. And then right here, where these two nodes are, we hit Alt J. Okay. And then we just need to take this, and let's go ahead and get rid of that node I added. But we're just going to kind of move that out a little bit. And to smooth that out, I add a node on either side and delete, and that just kind of smooths that out a little bit. So now that E is just coming right along, boom, right down here. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to get rid of that node I just added. We're going to select that and select this and hit Alt J. Right? So we combine that, we create that line there. Now we are going to split it right here, Shift B. So that is now been split apart. Now here's where the part that is maybe a little bit like, what in the world is he doing? All right, so this is a little bit of a special situation on the E. When we're dealing with satin columns, we can only have one start and one end, okay? And we know that this right here is the end. Okay, we've already defined that. But we don't have the start. And the start is going to be right here on the inside of this E. Okay? So this is how we're going to handle this. First of all, this piece of the E needs to be combined with this piece of the E. So we're going to hit Control K. And so now that is one piece. Okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to double click probably right about there, and right here is fine. So those are our two. We have three nodes selected. Let's select those two, Shift B. Okay, so now that that's taken care of, let's see what I just did there. Yeah, so now that that's taken care of, now we have a start and an end point. Okay, we have two nodes on top of one another down here. Okay, and then this is a stitch, and this is a stitch. Okay, where it's gonna kind of begin. This will make sense here, a lot more sense here in a second. Okay, so what we need to do is this piece up here, that node right there. Okay, in fact, I may just want to move that out of my way for a moment. And move that out of my way. We need to connect those two. So select that and select that. This, like I said, this part does get a little bit confusing. Alt J. What do we do here? Why is it not doing that? What do we got here? Okay, we got two. That's what we had. We had two nodes on top of one another. So that node and that node. Now we can hit Alt J. Okay. And then remember what I said before, to smooth it out, we just add a node on both sides of those two. And then we will select this one and this one, and then just hit the delete key and delete it. Goodbye. And that kind of sort of smooths it out in between there. Not so much though, did it? Let's maybe control that just a little bit. Let's hit control there and control here. Let's see here. Let's turn on our transformation handles. Maybe we can control this a little bit better. All right. I think that's good enough. Now this is a little bit wonky. So let's see if we can't take control of this a little bit. Let me zoom in here. So we'll select that and delete that. Okay, we smoothed that out. Now let's see if we can't smooth this out a little bit. We'll add a node there and we'll delete all of those. Okay, yes. So we smoothed all that out. Now I am going to bring this one back here a little bit like so. And bring this one back here a little bit like so. Now, like I said, this is a little bit confusing on this E, but basically what's going to happen is it's going to start here, stitch, come around and down and finish there. So let's see what happens. We do need to go in and add some rungs, otherwise we're going to have a real mess on our hands. So let's do that real quick. Straighten out those stitches. We'll put one right there at the corner. Excellent. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and select all of that. And we'll hit Control K. And now we're ready for satin. So Control Alt P to go into Preferences. I hit my wrong keyboard shortcut again. I get Control and Shift confused sometimes. Okay, so we'll turn off our running stitch. You'll see that we get, I want to control that just a little bit more right there. I can see that. Now, you can see it kind of stitched backwards. There, it did not start on the inside of our E, it started at the tail. So we will swap the rails. So it starts from the inside, stitching around. Then it's going to cover up those couple of end stitches there and come back around. But right there, where those two meet, I want to see how those are kind of going down. I want those to be a little bit more defined. And so you can see this right here. In fact, so we might be able just to move that stitch angle like that, and that will probably take care of it. So let's take a look at it again. It's coming from the inside, going to come around and down. And yes, I like that better. See how they're, yes, that is exactly what we want right there. Okay, so now that one's taken care of. Okay. Now the S here, we might skip over our F just for a moment. Let's take a look at this S. This S is kind of a unique one. It's going to be a little bit complicated. Let's go get rid of that extra node. We're going to split this one right. How am I going to do this? Let me think this through a second. I thought I had an idea, but let me just think this through a second. Okay, I think I got it. All right, so what we're going to do is this. We're going to come up here, add a node, and do we have one down here? We already do. So we're going to break it here, and then up top here, we're going to break it right there. Okay. So that's going to take care of, now we have to break the top, Shift Control K, and then break the bottom, Shift Control K. This is going to get a little confusing because of the way this is set up here. So let's turn off everything that relates to our S. I think that's going to be the way to go. Let me think about this. Let's create a new layer. And then let's take our S pieces, right click, we're going to move to layer 2, the one we just created, and let's turn off layer 2. So we have this piece is not part of our F, so we can right click and move that to layer 2. Okay, so now this is what we have left over, is just our F. So first of all, down here, this is a separate piece. Let's take all of this and combine it. Shift Control K. Let's do that again. Shift Control K. What's happening here? Let's see what is happening. Path combine. Why is that not combining? There we go. My keyboard has buttons that kind of stick, so I don't know. Maybe that was an issue. All right. So basically what's going to happen on this satin, it's going to come down and stitch back up top. So this is kind of like we had a situation with our E. It is very similar. So, so this is going to take a little bit of figuring out too. First of all, let's close our gaps. Okay. Alt-J. Turn off our transformation handles because those are getting in the way for the moment, time being. So right here, we'll select both of those. Alt-J. Okay. Close that up. Then obviously we need to get that closed up. Alt-J. And then we need to close this up as well. Alt-J. Okay. So now all those pieces are closed up. So that first part is good. Now it's a little bit of a wibbly wobbly situation right there. So let's delete that one and this one. And that you can see just by deleting a couple of nodes, that does smooth it out there. And then this, we have several that we're going to delete. So we're going to delete that, shift click that, and maybe even that, and just hit the delete key. And you could see by doing that, it did kind of change our shape too significantly. So let's just delete those three, and that's better. Okay. So now we got that. So then this piece here, what we're going to do is we're just going to, first of all, we're not going to add a node there. Let's go back to a straight line, Shift L. And then with our node tool, we can click and drag. And we're just going to kind of control this by eye. Whatever looks good to us. Okay? So that's how we're going to handle that. Okay, so it's going to come down and around, but we need to break it right here. So we are going to break this. Let's break it right there and here. Shift B. So this is our top break point. And then we're going to break it up here too. So we need 2 break points. We broke it at top, broke it down here. Okay. So now what we need to do is define our stitch angles. So we'll go to our pen tool. We'll put one right here. We'll put one right here. Then we're coming down. We're going to put one right here. We're going to put one right there. Right here at this corner. We're going to put one right there. Right here. Then we're coming up. We'll put one right there. And then we'll put one right there at that corner. And let's straighten it out right about there. Okay? Now, let's go back into our node tool because I did see a few issues. This one I think I'm going to get rid of just as I can't. So let's add one on both sides. And then I can. Okay? That's the trick. And then down here, you see where that's at kind of a sharp point there? I'm going to add one to this side and then delete that one. And now you can see how it's kind of rounded off a little bit. I just think that looks better. We'll go ahead and add a node there and then delete this one. I think that looks better. Okay, so that more or less takes care of that. But we do have a problem. And the problem involves the same thing that we had with the E. Let's move those out of the way. So we need to combine those two right there. So remember Alt-J. And then because we moved this stuff out of the way, we need to kind of fix it. So we're going to come in a little bit. See, we came in a little bit there. And then this one, we can probably just do something like that. And then turn this control handle around. And that's probably good enough. Just like that. Okay. So it's gonna, we'll start it here, come around and finish up there. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and select all of that and hit Control K. That's gonna combine our rungs to our rails. And now we should be able to go in and have a nice satin stitch. Reasonably nice. We may have to play with our rungs just a little bit. Whoa, we definitely have an issue there, don't we? Okay, so let's go ahead and hit apply and quit. Now, anytime we see something like really out there like this, it's because of something we did, okay? So let's just kind of double check things here. So I think that's okay. Let's see what we might have done here to cause this issue. Nothing stands out right away here. Trying to think here if there was a... Ooh. Let's do this. Let's go into params. So we'll go back into params, and I'm just going to try and start stitching from the other direction. So we're going to swap our rails. Okay. Okay, excellent. So I do see where my issue is. I did not catch that the first time around. So you'll notice that it's not showing me all of my satin. There's an issue right there. Now exactly what that issue is, I don't know, but there's definitely an issue here. So let's look at that and find out what our problem is. It's almost like the satin is split in some spot it's not supposed to be. Let's go to Path and Simplify, see if that helps us at all. There's a node on top of a node right there. Aha! Let me undo that. It looks to me like it's split there, and it's not supposed to be. So that was the problem. And guess what? I bet it's split right here too. It is. And it's not supposed to be. So we just combined those segments together. So now they are not split. So that was our problem. So now when we go in there, now we will see we get the proper satin. If I use the right keyboard shortcut, I keep using Shift, not Control-Alt-P. So now we should have the correct result. So the devil is definitely in the details. But when something crazy like that's happening, it's because we did that. We did that. All right. So now you can see we do get our expected results there. That looks pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that. I think I want to spend a little bit of time here trying to see if we can't figure that out a little bit better. But all in all, that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to adjust, first of all, we'll select that and hit Shift L. We want that to be perfectly straight. So we are just going to move this over a little bit, like so. And then we are going to add another rung there and another rung there. I just want to control that corner just a bit more. So we will Control K our rungs to our rails, go into params, and take another look. And of course we'll have to turn off our running stitches because we added to what we were doing. We do want to go into satin column and swap our rails so it stitches the other way. And yeah, I think I like that. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is I would like to look at my maximum stitch length, and let's set it at 8 and see if any of those we do need to turn on our what do we do here? Oh, I'm sorry, minimum stitch length. We want maximum stitch length of 8. Okay, so this is greater than 8, and that's greater than 8. So you can see there. So that's not great. So that So what we're going to do then is, of course, we'll do the random jitter here where we need to make that more satiny. And we'll probably have to go back through and double check all of our letters to make sure we're using that setting. Let's go ahead and just turn everything on here. Let's see here. Turn that off. And then we have our layer turned off, but we have all our individual pieces turned off as well. So let's turn those back on. What do we have left here? Oh, yes. We have our S left. So we do have our S left up here. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And then we have to figure out exactly how we're going to go about stitching this S. So we have our, first of all, we're going to take all of these pieces. We have like a lower piece of our S, and then we have the middle, and then the upper. So we're going to take all of those pieces and combine them. So start there, Control K. And so those are in fact one piece. But where they connected here, we do need a little segment there, Alt J. So we do have that. All right, let's go ahead and turn off our tail piece, and let's turn off our F. That's a little bit in the way, and just look at the S here and figure out exactly how we're going to stitch this. So what we're going to do here is we're going to right there and right here, we're going to break there and there. So Shift B. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to Shift Control K. So that piece right there has been broken apart. And then we need to do the same thing with this right here, Shift B. And then we need to do the same thing. This is a different, let's go ahead and yeah, let's go ahead and just break it there. That'll be fine. And then up top here, we also going to have to break it. Let's break it right there, Shift B. All right, so now we've broken all that up too. So Shift Control K and try and make some sense of this. So this piece has now been broken off, and this piece has now been broken off. Okay, so just for simplification, let's turn that off and turn that off. And this is kind of what we're left with here, okay, which doesn't look like much, does it? So let's go ahead and Control K, combine that, and then let's undo. That one can stay, but that one, what did we get rid of that we shouldn't have? Our F? Because we need that lower section here. So let's go ahead and turn back on all this stuff. Okay, where's this? Where's that little piece? Right here. That's what I was after. And now for some reason it don't want to let me select that. Oh, we locked it. That's why. We locked it by accident. Okay, so that is there. Okay, so I do need to break that off then. I need to hit Shift B. So the devil's kind of in the details here. And then Shift Control K. And so now this piece is now separate from this piece here. Okay? And this piece here should be connected to this piece. So Control K. All right. Whew. Glad we got through that. All right. So what we have here is we have this. This is what we have. We're going to add this. So Control K. And so now we have that. Okay? So if I double click on this, we have to connect this right here. So these two, Alt J, Let's get rid of our transformation handles for a moment because that's going to just be confusing. And then this piece here, we're just going to select it and just bend it so that kind of does that thing there, right? And then up top here, we need to take this piece right here, shift click this piece and do the same thing, Alt J. And then we just need to kind of manipulate it how we want that to look. So now this is going to do a big satin stitch all the way up in here, and then this is going to be a separate satin stitch. Okay, so this will be interesting to see how this actually turns out. All right, so we used Alt J, so everything's connected that should be connected. So let's go ahead and add in our rungs where we think we need them. Something like that. Okay. Now, of course, we need to combine all of our rungs to our rails. So we select everything, Control K, and now we're ready to hit the old parameters. We do not want a running stitch. Okay, so we have an issue that I forgot to fix, obviously. So we'll go ahead and hit apply and quit, and it has to do with a connector somewhere. So is it here? No. Is it here? No. Is it here? No. Is it here? No. That's unexpected. So let's do this. Let's turn off F again. We'll turn off that lower piece of our S. And what is going on here? Let's go back into params. Sometimes stitching from the other direction will give us a clue. So we will swap rails. It did not give us a clue. So that's unfortunate. I don't know where that issue is. So we have to find it. What it involves, there's an extra split somewhere. And I don't know where that extra split would be exactly. But that's what's happening. Best as I can figure. What if we did path simplify? That may help us a little. Seems to me that the issue is, aha, this is not split like it should be. Shift B, that was the issue. So now it will convert to satin properly once I use my proper keyboard shortcut here. Pretty sure this will work. Devil's in the details, as I say. So we're good. I think we're okay like that. I think we're going to be okay like that. We're going to have to investigate that when we get down to it, but I think we're okay. So now we just have this situation here. And I think what I want to do here, we'll just run with it and see. Something's going to have to give here. I don't think that's going to work very well. Let's do this. Let's grab a line and close this cap off. Okay. Now let's double click that cap and see what's connected here. So don't need that one. So we have that. That's connected, and then we came down to here. That's not connected, but we're going to connect those. Shift J to connect nodes, and now that corner is connected. And now what we're going to do is take this path and just kind of force it to be right along the existing path there. I'm just going to use our control handles to get it as close as we can, and then we're going to break it right here. Shift B. Okay. Now, instead of having this tight corner, we're just going to have that kind of go straight. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and add a node. Yes, like that. And then we're going to delete all of this stuff. Okay, and then we're going to select that segment and hit Shift L. That will straighten it out. Now you see how it kind of, when we hit Shift L, you see how it kind of moved that other path? So all we have to do is just control click on this node. Let's see here. And we'll kind of reposition that. So now we've changed that into a corner. And then this, we're going to hit Shift L. And that will just straighten that line out. Okay, so now that will turn into satin like we need it to. Okay, so we do need to go ahead and add some rungs so we can control what's happening. With our stitch angles. That should do it. So now we will select all of that, the rungs and the rails, and Control K. If I pull that away, I just want to make sure that, yes, just what we wanted is selected there. So let's go back in. No running stitches. Just satin. Yes, that's ending as expected. Excellent. All right, so now we pretty well have everything the way we expected. So let's turn that and that. And let's turn on our background. And that looks pretty good. Now, let's go back over this way. Ooh, we can't really see with that background. We can't see our, let's see, let's change. Now we can see it. All right, so basically what we want to do now is we want to put everything in the proper stitch order. That's next. So let's go ahead and put everything on the same path, or on the same layer rather. So in regards to our Chief's text, we want it to stitch from left to right. So we want the C to stitch, and then I think what we'll do is we'll stitch the H next, and then the column of this H, and then we're going to stitch the top of our I maybe, and then the bottom of our I, and then our E, and then our F, and then we're going to do the bottom part of our S, and then the top part of our S, and then we're going to do our athletic tail and our athletic tail, and then we're going to go up to extensions, InkStitch, and we're going to choose edit and restack all of those objects in the order that we selected. And that should stitch out in the order that we anticipated. Now technically there's a little piece of our athletic tail that is missing where the F kind of covered it up. So I'm going to come in here And you can see here this athletic tail didn't quite go all the way to our F. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so that will now connect properly. And then we want to recreate this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to just grab our pen tool, and I'm just going to draw a line from there to there. And then we are going to grab our node tool. Maybe I'll leave that. And let's add a node right there. And we'll come in here and add a node, slide it over. Something like that. Okay, I like that. So we don't need this one or this one now. We just need to recreate that right there. So we'll grab our pen tool and click here and click down here and then click up here. And then grab our node tool and just kind of move this down like we need it to be. Something about like so. And then we can go ahead and we don't need this segment. So Alt Delete. And then this we need to break. So Shift B. And now we can convert that little piece. Did we do that right? We did not do that right. Let me back up. Because what we need to do is these are running vertically, so we need the satin stitches to run vertically too, not horizontally. We need them vertical. Which means what? If they need to run vertically, what do we need to do here? So we need that rail there. Trying to think here how we're going to do this to make them run vertically. Okay, so I figured that out. So what we're going to do here is we're going to break it right here. These two nodes, we're going to break it right there. So you see there, those two nodes are broken. So we have that bottom path and this upper path. And then let's go ahead and grab and add some rungs. We'll add a rung there. We'll add a rung there. And then we will select all of that in Control K. And then we can add some params. So you see this is kind of a complicated little deal here. But using those rungs, like I said, it does kind of muddy the waters, I think, a little bit. But you can see there that we do get our expected result. So we can choose apply and quit. And that piece is now done. Okay, so we are ready to take a gander at our finished design here. I say it's finished. It's not actually finished, but it's really close. But let's go in and look at it in simulator mode first. And the main thing that we're concerned with is that it's stitching right now. The main concern is that it's stitching in the right order. So It's crashed. It happens. No, man. Emergency save. Would be pretty fucking torqued. What's going on here, man?
Last one.
Awesome. Gonna ruin my dinner.
Huh?
I said this is gonna ruin my dinner.
Okay.
Did Harley get one?
You got 2.
2?
Yeah. You got 2. And Michelle got 3.
Huh?
Michelle got 3. Michelle got 3 with her big stuff. I cut all the potatoes.
Okay. Put them in a big bowl, rinse them all off,
That's it.
and I'll be up there in just a second. Man, it's taking forever. Good God, Gertie, man, come on.